our two long-serving jurors on the hot seat now, Bonnie Burnham and Joseph Stiglitz, who've been on the jury for 6 years now. And as long as I'm editing the Global Vision Awards, you guys are going to get the annual invitation, so I hope you continue to accept it. But I wanted to bring up some of the things that Nancy brought up in her introduction. The criticisms, the legitimate criticisms that face travel about how environmentally taxing travel can be, and that when we travel en masse to places, we can also degrade cultures, we can erode natural environments. But of course, everybody sitting around this table represents a really innovative and effective solution to some of the most vexing problems facing us. So I guess what I'd like to hear from you, from your participation in the Global Vision Awards, but also your own work and travels, do you think, in large part, in balance, travel is a positive force in this world? Joe, why don't you take it?
Well, obviously, yes.
And you can be honest.
Given the amount of travel I do, I feel very guilty. I couldn't live with myself if I thought it was bad. So
20 days last year.
So we travel. Yeah.
Wow. 80 the year before.
Yeah, we travel a lot, mostly for work, but we always try to engage in spend a little time in where we are, that in not work. And one of the statistics that you mentioned actually it is a very important number. That you said worldwide travel was about 9% of GDP. Just remember, in the United States, manufacturing is only 10% of GDP. So that really shows you how important it is. And one of the things that's going to be happening inevitably is that there's going to be a transition from manufacturing to services. When we ask, what are the services that people care about? Probably not banking services. That was a joke. But it's really things like education, health, but tourism, because you can think of that in some countries. You think of this as cultural services, meeting people, and there's a lot of research that shows that what gives people a sense of well-being are these kinds of connections that come with travel, and with the interaction that occurs with travel. So I think it obviously is going to be a very important part of our economy and our society. So then the question is, how do we make sure that it has as positive effect as it can, and minimize the negative effects? Inevitably, there are going to be some negative effects. You have to go from one place to another, and that takes energy. And I think one of the ways that the travel industry, one of the important roles that it's played, is really being more conscious of that than almost any other industry. And certainly because everybody, or a very large fraction of citizens around the world, interact with the travel industry, as they become aware that the travel industry is doing something, it has a bigger effect than just the travel industry. So, for instance, I think it's been interesting that in Europe, that at the beginning of a focus on carbon taxes and charging for the use of fuel had begun with the airline industry. It was one of the, and I think it's a little disappointing that the U.S. is fighting that, and that it's a little bit ironic that an administration that claims that it is very pro-environment is trying to bring a case in Europe saying that we shouldn't be paying those. And so that's just an example of the fact that there is an awareness. And when the big hotel chains change the light bulbs, it really begins, people start thinking about, well, yes, these light bulbs, these energy efficient light bulbs actually do work. And one of the problems is setting new standards. Getting people away from the old light bulbs to new light bulbs. And when they see it every time they travel in a hotel room, it becomes more acceptable So in that sense, it's really helping change the norms of our society, I think, in a very positive way. Beyond that, takes resources. And that's where foundations play an important role, but so does tourism. And one of the award winners this year is the Chennai, which is absolutely fascinating. We have visited there and we realized that the monument people are supporting are involved that there too. And just an amazing group of houses. This was an area of India, in the south of India, that was very prosperous. People who were making their living trading, maybe not so good for the environment, the trading, I think, with Burma, as it was called then, and with trees and things like that. Probably they shouldn't be, but they created some absolutely fantastic houses. I mean, not some, a lot of very fantastic houses in this relatively isolated place in India. I don't remember how we found out about it, but we
TripAdvisor. 2
Right.
days to film it.
So it was absolutely amazing, and what they've done is also preserve cuisine and some lots. It's not just the buildings; it's the cuisine, and they're trying to preserve beyond that. And that's where tourism becomes important, because when you have people there, they can preserve. They get the economic basis of preserving the culture.
And it was a funny thing about globalization, because